The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Dark Side of the Pooch.
So let me ask you this. As an owner then, your dog loves these nuts. What's to keep that dog from eating 4 more nuts?
We had that conversation with them, and they were willing to go to whatever degree they needed to. I mean, the great young couple, and they love this dog so much, and they said, should we cut down the tree? Because we're prepared to cut down the tree and get rid of all the nuts. What do you think we should do? And I said, well, that obviously that's the way to get it done, so you never have to worry about it again. But we've had clients that have had multiple surgeries for GI obstruction in a single pet. And it's varied from rocks to clothing to dog toys. And so finally we told this guy, he's a friend of mine, we told him, you need to make your dog wear a basket muzzle all the time.
Oh, wow.
Because you can't put everything away all the time. And the basket muzzle, it still allows them to open up their mouth and pant. They can still bark. I mean, they can pretty much do all the things that they want to do. They can even drink. They can't really eat with it on, but it had gotten to a point where the dog had so many GI surgeries that the dog was starting to form adhesions. And so what that means is loops of intestines were kind of grabbing onto other loops of intestines, and then those were leading to obstructions. So if this is a piece of small intestine, and this is a piece of small intestine right here, and if you make an incision in one of them, let's say we made an incision in this one, they're in the intestine, and eventually they can lay on top of each other, and they'll fuse, and so that can make it so that food doesn't pass through very well, and that's what was happening in this dog. And I told the guy, I said, if we have to do another one of these surgeries on your dog, I don't know if it's going to live.
Wow. That's crazy. You never know what you're going to hear here on Dark Side of the Pooch. Brought to you by Sasquatch Toys and Comics down there in beautiful Homewood. Of course, Seth Cosby, he runs that place. A brand new Toy Story opened up back in October. All kinds of great comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and up. And of course, anything that's still in the box. When it comes to toys, you find stuff up in your attic. They got everything from Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, anything Legos, you name it. They've got some killer toys. Check out the wonderful Sasquatch Toys and Comics right there. And of course, you can call Dr. Reb Stewart anytime at 208-0301, rossbridgevet.com, and wherever you get your favorite podcast, you can find info at tonycurryradio.net and Dark Side of the Pooch. I do have a little bit of an update on my dog situation, and it's really kind of driving me crazy. I had mentioned the fact that my dog had urinated on my recliner a couple of times. And this is after the dog had been in the house for a year, had no issues, had no urine issues at all, wasn't dropping any gifts for daddy, whatever. I'd leave the house for 2 or 3 hours. I'd come back. He'd tear up the blinds. He may chew a shoe occasionally, but for the most part, wasn't wrecking the place. And then all of a sudden I realized that this dog is starting to urinate on my recliner. And I take that very personally. And I gotta be honest with you, it hurt my feelings. I look after my dogs. I mean, I do take care of my dogs, and I don't baby my dogs. They are dogs. I don't allow them up on their furniture, and they're not allowed to sleep in bed with me, but I do take care of my animals, and I do consider them part of the family. But it really pissed me off because this is a personal situation. If he had peed in the corner or dropped a couple of nuggets somewhere in the kitchen, I get it. You can't hold it. But the fact that he did it on my chair tells me that this was a direct shot across the bow at daddy. And so he did that. And so I got this mechanical dog I mentioned. It's one of these things that it was a Halloween dog. It was like a skeleton dog, and it scares the bejeebers out of him. He hates this thing. And so I put it right there in the corner of my chair, knowing that if he got near it, it was going to be censored. It would go off. It would scare him away, and he would leave my chair. And it worked for about a week and a half. And then I thought, do I want to have this skeleton dog, sitting in my house from here on out? And so I let him back out again. Then about the third day, we had the issue again. So I started putting up in the bathroom. You were telling me that as long as you know that he's not having some type of urinary tract infection, a UTI or something, and I certainly need to bring him in to make sure that's not an issue. Because if it's something where he just can't hold his pee, the problem is if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to shoot it right at my recliner. He would be peeing somewhere else in the house because he would not be able to hold it, and chances are it would be near the door, which is where he sits to go outside, right? So we're sitting home on Christmas morning. I'm with my 3 kids. And I bought one of my kids these little radio control. They're like little bumper cars, and obviously dogs hate RC cars. And while we're in the kitchen playing with these RC cars, he's taking a leak on my recliner in the other room while I'm in the kitchen. I walked in there and he's got the leg up, and I catch him with the leg up, and I mean I just couldn't believe it. It was like he knew exactly. I can imagine this is what it's like when you have a 16-year-old and you take their phone away from them, you ground them, you don't know what else to do, and they just don't get it, and they just keep flying in your face in spite of yourself. And so, I had to put him back up in the bathroom this morning. But I mean, I was like, "What are you doing, man? I mean, am I missing something here?"
Put a diaper on him, legitimately get a human diaper, and instead of putting it between his legs like you would a baby, you put it in front of his legs over the top of his back and use some duct tape to fasten it over his back. And then so that way the diaper is cupping his manhood. And if he does pee, the diaper's going to catch it.
Oh, I'll do what I have to do.
Or you could euthanize him.
It's just so bizarre because this is probably the best dog I've ever had. It's the smartest dog I've ever had. He's sitting behind me right now. He comes in my studio with me. I mean, and I allow him to come in my studio with me. I don't normally let my dogs come in the studios. He comes in, we're buddies. And whenever I go to the store for 5 or 10 minutes, he hops in the car with me. If we're in the car for 2 or 3 hours, or I'm on a road trip, he goes with me everywhere I go. My son's even called me a dog. He said something the other day and it kind of hurt my feelings. I'm getting my feelings hurt a lot. He's like, "You're turning into one of those dog guys." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're turning into one of those dog people. One of those people that can't go anywhere without bringing their dog." I said, No. I said, "I'm just doing that because I don't want him tearing up the house." He's like, "No, Dad, you're turning into one of those dog guys where you take your dog everywhere you go." And I said, "No, I'm not. So, I mean, that's how much I love this animal. And then he's urinating on my chair. I'm just kind of like, and again, we've already been through a move. The kids come and go every 7 days. Nothing's really changed from a routine standpoint. And all of a sudden, a year into the move, all of a sudden he starts taking a leak on my recliner. And I'm just like, I don't get it. I can't figure it out. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. If he's making it through the night, or when you put him up and he's not peeing at all, it's not a medical condition. So,
well, he's waking me up every night around 1:30. I go to bed around 9:30. And so he's up there and he's kind of these little murmur barks, not outright barks, but just kind of just enough to wake me up. And then I'll yell at him, "Shut up, be quiet in there." And then maybe he'll make it till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I realize my hours are kind of screwed up anyway, because I usually get up at 4:15. But recently I've been getting up over the holidays. I've been getting up with him at 1 or 1:30 because of the holidays, and I've got my kids. And so I've kind of thrown his schedule off a little bit, I guess. So now he thinks we're getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning, which we're not. And so when I went in there this morning, there were some wet spots on the floor in the bathroom. But I couldn't tell you if it was drool or whether he leaked a little bit or he got into the toilet. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any, you can put like a white cloth down if it's yellow at all. It's, it's pee. Don't.
Yeah, I'm trying
don't slip and fall in it.
I'm trying to talk myself into believing this dog is like a human being, that he understands what I'm going through, and it's just one of these things where we just keep butting heads, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to lose this fight. It is just like having a child. You know, you've told
Yeah.
your kid over and over and over again, don't do that. Don't do that again. You take the car keys away, you take their cell phones away, and they keep doing it. And to the point where, and thank goodness, knock on wood, I have not had an issue with any of my 3 kids that have come to that. But I'm kind of like, what is wrong with you? And when you're dealing with an animal that you can't sit and have a conversation with, and you're not sure if it understands why you're doing. Now, when I caught him hiking his leg on my chair, I grabbed him by the back of the neck and said no, and I put him outside, and I don't know if that's changed anything or not, but he's got to know what he's doing is wrong. He
I don't
knows
know.
what
He
he's
might
doing.
have he might have a urinary tract infection. You bring in a urine sample. We'll check it.
All right, I think that's the next thing I do.
I think you have to.
It's kind of like when I spanked my special needs son for the first time. And I was at my wit's end. I didn't know what else to do, and I gave him a good paddling, and it was the worst thing I'd ever done in my life, because he did not understand why I did what I did. And you don't want to talk about a heartbreaker. And that was the first time and the last time I'll ever do it. I apologize for it. And it's not like I wore his skin out or anything. It was more of a thing I wanted to scare him. But yeah, because I don't. So I mean, it would be horrible to know that my dog is having a urinary tract infection or something like that, and I'm yelling at him because he can't keep his pee in the house, and I'm just not letting him out when he wants to go out. So
You wouldn't be the first person or the last person to do that, because at first I think the default is to think, oh, they're just lashing out, or this is some kind of behavior that we just got to figure this out, and they got to get over it. So you're not the first person or the last
how
person.
common are UTIs or urinary tract infections for dogs? Like
We see it all. We see one almost every day.
Okay, so it's pretty common.
Yeah, and
the other thing is,
that,
and I'll tell you this, and I may be screwing things up, I have not been keeping them hydrated like I normally do. I usually keep a bowl of water out. I know you've said, listen, you can pull the water up, because if they don't drink, they're not going to pee. And so I moved their. See, now I feel like I'm going to therapy, because I stopped feeding them twice a day. I started feeding them once a day in the afternoon, and they're getting water twice a day, and that's it. And so I've thrown that routine off a little bit. So I think there's probably a couple of reasons why he's pissed off at me. Now that I think about it.
Well, yeah, you locked your dog in a dungeon and didn't give it food or water.
Well, I don't know. So talk about a little bit, since we're talking about psychology and therapy a little bit. This is a really tough time of the year, I would think, for dogs and kitty cats. There's a lot of people coming and going. Hours are all messed up. There are people taking days off work. There are people traveling. They're boarding animals. They're moving the kennel from one side of the room to the other side of the room because Aunt May's in town for a few days. Can you just talk about what it's like for an animal to go through the holiday season?
My dog was alone all Christmas Day, and I'm sure that he was not very happy with me.
Yeah.
But we got up and we went to my in-laws' house. At the crack of dawn, basically, kids open their presents, and we're out the door at 8:30, 8 or 8:30, and then I didn't get back home till 5:30. So I was really surprised when I didn't come home to find a puddle of pee or a pile of poop anywhere in the house. So he was a good boy. But for people that, even if you have an anxious dog, then I think times like this really send it, into overdrive. But I think if you don't have a dog that's anxious, normally, I think these times can really throw them through a loop, because there's, like you said, there's new people coming over. Things are moved around in the house. My dog does not like when things are moved around.
Yeah.
If the furniture moves, we put the Christmas tree up. There's presents under the tree. We have to move his bed, and he just, in general, seems like he just cannot get comfortable because he knows that something's up. And he also does the same thing if we're going out of town. When the suitcases come out, he will not leave. He will not leave our side. He's pacing through the house constantly. So that's, it's just something that they have to deal with. And we get anxious too. And so it may manifest in us in similar ways. So as long as they're not hurting themselves or demolishing things in the house, you just have to understand what the behavior looks like. Recognize it when you see it, kind of sympathize with them, give them a little more attention, maybe let them know it's going to be okay. But for the dogs that really kind of hurt themselves or hurt, destroy things around the house, that's when, you maybe need to intervene with some type of treatment.
Yeah, because the first thing I think of is can I hang with this dog longer than and again, I see this dog every single day. I mean, I spend a lot of time with my dog, particularly when I'm working from my office. When I don't have my kids, I rarely leave the house. I have no reason to leave. And so I think he gets used to that. And then on top of that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe am I walking him enough? Am I spending enough time? Knowing that when I do start these new regimens or these new routines, and maybe I'll start walking him 2 or 3 days a week, then he's going to expect that. So I may be starting some new routine that I can't keep up with. And I can't keep it the same from week to week, and I'm doing him a disservice by starting these new things when I can't do it regularly. So I don't know.
Well, I think you have a high maintenance dog. I think Rainer is a high maintenance dog.
Yeah, it's just bizarre though, because for a year I have not had any issues. I mean, I have had 0 issues. This dog has been perfect. I mean, I just cannot get over seriously. And I can't analogize this enough. This is having the 16-year-old with straight A's, for a whole year. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And all of a sudden you find, a bag of weed in the bathroom drawer and they're hanging out with the floozy at school and they're skipping school. And you're like, what just happened here? I mean, this kid was brilliant. He was a perfect kid. And all of a sudden out of the blue, and it's like, do you not understand what you're doing wrong? And they're looking at me like, no. And it's like, I just don't get it.
Have you talked to Rainer about his friends? Have you talked to him about his friend choices?
You know what? I'm starting to think that maybe it has to do with his brother, because his brother's been skating pretty good, and that dog's the one that pees all over the house. But again, I kenneled that dog up, so that dog's that dog doesn't have any problem. So I don't know.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was somehow Frisco and Frisco was framing him?
You know what? I thought for a while he was, and the only way I know it's not him, first of all, I caught him in the act finally. Yeah. And second of all, there's no way that little Havanese can hike his leg that high. I mean, he'd have to go standing up. Back. He'd have to go standing up is the only way he could get it that high on my recliner. And
lay on his back. Lay on his back and wail.
And therapeutically speaking, psychologically speaking, it took me back to Freddie Dog. And you know my story with Freddie Dog. I mean, this is a dog that pooped in my recliner. This is a dog that pooped in my bed. I mean, it didn't poop on my wife's side. It didn't poop anywhere in the house. It went in my bed and pooped on my pillow. And knowing
Rainer's neutered. Rainer's neutered, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I felt pretty sure that he was.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll bring him in next week because, I would feel horrible as a parent if I was sitting there trying to reconvene on this animal and try to do the right thing for it and then realize that it's been sick the entire time and I've been not giving it water or not feeding it correctly. And we're just having a fight.
We'll check him out. I mean, it's like it'll be painless, quick and easy.
All right. Interesting. Dark Side of the Pooch brought to you by Sasquatch Toys and Comics. We do it every single week. And of course, the Sasquatch Toys and Comics down there in beautiful Homewood, 50th anniversary of Ed's Pet World, whether it's exotic pets, sugar gliders, you name it. I've got my guinea pigs down there. I get all my fish down there. Ed, of course, the past Ed was unbelievable, ran a wonderful thing. And now Seth is doing just a fantastic job at Ed's Pet World. Fantastic stuff. Tell people how they can find you, my friend, and get ready for 2024.
You can call us at 208-0301. You can find us on Facebook, Rossbridge Animal Hospital, or you can email us at rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.